G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you. It is blowing an absolute gale out here. What a month, what a night, what a time it's been. The Nikon Z9 is now formally announced and it's built for weather like this. It is raining, it is absolutely insanely wet, and we had a massive storm come through here last night. Not only a massive storm, but the Z9 launch. Now, nothing could be more exciting for those who are into Nikon. I'd have to say, this moment absolutely draws a line in the sand as to where Nikon are at and whether they've got what it takes to meet their peers. And at this point in time, really, if anybody tried to come out and say this camera is lacking, I think they've lost sight of the big picture. We've got to a point here where the differences are choices. They're not technological shortfalls, they're choices. But I still, with a smile on my face, will look forward to those who still try and tell us that somehow Nikon is failing. I mean, there really is only one place that I think that conversation could happen, and that, I think, is probably going to be frames per second. But let's just talk about that for a second. We've got 20 frames per second with everything going on in RAW. Full quality files. Then we've got 30 frames per second, full frame, everything going on in JPEG. And then we've got 120 frames per second, full frame, 11 megapixels. Honestly, if you can't make your world work with those options, then yeah, don't buy a Nikon. But I also want to talk about the fact that there's 8K 60 RAW internal coming soon. Now that is a bunch of data. Now that says to me something along the lines of, this camera can probably do more frames per second in RAW. It just seems to have the data pipeline for that. So, are we going to see that come soon? I don't know, but I feel like the camera's capable of it. So I think they might just be teasing us. And it may come, and if it doesn't come in the Z9, it'll come in the Z9 too. Indeed, this camera, let's talk about the upsides. Let's talk about that 8K. Let's talk about the fact that there's no shutter, so this thing can go on and on. Let's talk about the fact that Morten Hilmer has taken it to weather like this ×5 and just creating amazing shots. I've watched his video last night, absolutely outstanding stuff. Matt Granger, able to shoot, I think he said, 1,800 RAW files in one burst. 1,800 RAW files in one burst, so that is a crazy buffer. The reality is, real world usage, this is Nikon grade. It's going to work, it's going to perform, it's going to handle this sort of weather. This is a line in the sand. This is far more than a D3 moment. And then there's the price. The price of $5,500 US, coming in $1,000 below the A1, coming in $500 below the R3. Holy cow, what's going on here? That's just crazy stuff. So Nikon have made a decision to deliver on all fronts, and there is so much for us to talk about and unpack. We've got a development announcement of the 400mm 2.8, an 800mm. Did I hear that or did I dream that last night? Coming as well. We've got a 24-120 f4 through the range. Ridiculous. And then on the roadmap, there's a number of other DX lenses, and I think I even saw, was it a 16mm pancake or something along those lines? There is so much information flowing right now, like the rain. I think it's time to head back to the studio and go through this a little bit more. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And I think my face is going to freeze off, and I don't know if this is going to face detect me through the windscreen of my car. We'll see, we'll see.
This camera is the first one that frees the photographer to really be creative.
The best of all worlds wrapped into one.
What is different about the autofocus in the Z9? Everything. Autofocus that's super smart.
Photographing at 120 frames a second. I can't fathom that. you've got 8K, you've got 4K slow-mo. I'm getting shots like I've never gotten before in my career.
It just explodes on the screen.
It's that clarity, it's that punch that I've craved forever. And now I have it.
So what does this say to the market? What are Sony and Canon going to do next? Obviously, Nikon has arrived, and every single piece of negative information that has flowed around the internet for the last couple of years, surely at this point in time, it has to stop. Sony, obviously with the A1, have a camera that is similar, but there are some aspects of the Z9 which I consider to be, well, superior. And in regard to Canon, well, the R3 is simply a different class of camera, yet it's more expensive. That's quite confusing. The other thing about the Z9 that I find super intriguing from a photographer's business case perspective is there's no shutter. This is a camera that just goes on and on and on. And presumably, being a video camera, it's something that simply the uptime of the chip, presumably, will be in the years and years and years. This is an investment. This is a camera that's going to deliver for a long time to come. We heard in this very presentation that the new XSpeed 7 processor is 10 times more powerful than the XSpeed 6. So basically what we're saying here is a Z6 or a Z7 has 10 times less power than a Z9. This means that this is a camera that's going to go on and be useful. So what am I saying here? That this camera is an investment. And as I've talked about for more than a year now, the F users in the permafrost waiting to see what Nikon would do, this is their time. I would absolutely believe that this camera is now being pre-ordered in droves. At $5,500 US, this camera is only going to get cheaper. And I can see when we have sales, maybe 3, 4, 5 times a year, this camera will be sub $5,000. This is a ridiculous amount of camera. Whether you want to shoot 8K 60p RAW internal, or you just want to shoot 45 megapixels at 30 frames per second in JPEG, or 120 frames per second JPEGs full frame, this camera is packing a punch. And really, there are so many things that we haven't tested. The road ahead for this camera is extraordinary. The potential for this camera is extraordinary. The processing power is extraordinary. The lack of shutter is extraordinary. The fact that it has the fastest readout time, again, is extraordinary. I think the power of the Z mount is only just beginning. We're seeing a few more exciting and interesting lenses on the roadmap. I still personally can't wait for lenses like the 85mm 1.2. I think the 24-120 is a super useful lens, and obviously now we see on the roadmap things like 600mm lenses, 400mm lenses, and 800mm lenses. Within the next 18 months or so, it looks like pretty much the basics of everything from ultra wide through to ultra long is going to be there for the Z mount. The Z9 is here. The future is ridiculously bright, and I can't wait to share as much as I possibly can about the Z9. I hope to get my hands on one very, very soon. I'm not sure when that's going to be. And for those who've been asking, yes, I do think I'll be buying one. I will explain more in the days and months to come. Absolutely fantastic to have you here. The Z9 live stream will be coming up soon. It was actually my daughter's birthday over the last 24 hours and the next 24 hours. We're having 2 days of it, seeing as we've been in lockdown for so long. So I'm sorry it's kept me away from being able to do much of this sort of stuff. But As I've said before, the coming weeks and months are going to be huge as we unpack the Z9 and all of these amazing new lenses. And now all of this crazy trailer and launch stuff is over, there'll also be more stuff flowing in regards to the 18 to 140 DX zoom lens, which is a little cracker of a lens. All right, everybody, please, any thoughts or comments or questions below, I would love to hear them. It's absolutely spectacular to have seen you today. If this is your first time here, I would love you to subscribe. Please share, please like, and what a day. The Z9 absolutely rocks.